The rain fell lightly that afternoon, dripping on the mansion's enormous windows like impatient fingers trying to get in. Helena Costa, wrapped in an elegant wool coat, walked through the silent hallways, her heels echoing on the marble floor. The 30-room house was colder than the winter outside. For her, the silence was a comfort, until a soft sound, almost a whisper, made her stop. It came from the playroom. Helena frowned. Gabriel never made a sound. Her 5-year-old son didn't speak, didn't look anyone in the eye, didn't react to almost anything. Doctors called it severe autism. She called it a curse. With slow steps, Helena approached the half-open door. What she saw made her freeze. Camila, the new nanny, sat cross-legged on the rug, face to face with Gabriel. The boy held a small, colorful wooden block and stared at her, his brown eyes wide, as if absorbing every detail. Camila moved her hands delicately, forming signs. "Water," she said softly, her fingers tracing the word in Brazilian Sign Language. "Libras, repeat after me." "Gabriel, water." Helena's heart pounded. What does she think she's doing? She muttered to herself. She pushed the door firmly, causing a crack to echo through the room. Gabriel flinched and clutched the notebook to her chest. Camila looked up in surprise, but didn't get up immediately. "Camila, what is this?" Helena asked, her voice sharp as a blade. "Why are you teaching my son these things?" Camila took a deep breath and calmly rose from the floor. "Mrs. Costa, I was just trying to help." "Help?" Helena let out a dry laugh. "You're the nanny. Your job is to take care of the basics, not play teacher with my son." Camila maintained her firm posture, but her voice was soft. "Forgive me, ma'am, but I've noticed that Gabriel pays attention when I sign. Today, he almost tried to repeat it." "Repeat?" Helena crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing in disbelief. "My son doesn't speak. No doctor has been able to do that in 5 years. And you, with a few little hands and words, think you can change that? I don't think so. ... Camila replied with a calm gleam in her eyes. "I believe you." Helena felt a pang in her chest. That woman spoke as if she truly saw something in Gabriel. ... Something she herself hadn't seen in years. "Enough," Helena snapped, pointing to the door. "From today on, limit yourself to cleaning and cooking. I want distance between you and my son. Do you understand?" Camila hesitated for a second, but lowered her gaze. "Understood, ma'am." As Helena turned to leave, Gabriel made a soft sound, almost a whisper. For a moment, it seemed he was trying to imitate the sign for water with his trembling hands. Helena stopped, her heart racing, but not daring to look back, she pressed on, convinced it was just her imagination. What she didn't know was that this seemingly small moment would be the first step toward a silent revolution that would forever change her life, Gabriel's, and the life of the woman she considered insignificant. That night, Helena barely slept. She paced back and forth in her luxurious room, the sound of the rain drumming on the roof, an irritating reminder of what she had witnessed. Camila's words echoed in her mind. He almost tried to do it again. "Nonsense," she muttered to herself. "No doctor could do it. Not a simple nanny can." Meanwhile, in the small servants' quarters, Camila sat on the edge of the bed, holding a crumpled photo in her hands. It was a picture of an elderly woman, with a gentle face, lying in a hospital bed. Camila's eyes welled up. She whispered to herself, "I promised I would never let a child be invisible again, not after everything." What no one knew in that house was who Camila really was. Before donning her nanny uniform and desperately accepting that job, she had been a renowned speech therapist, a specialist in speech disorders, awarded for developing innovative methods with children the world had called lost causes. But life, cruel as only it can be, took everything away: career, recognition, money. And when her mother fell ill, Camila had to abandon international conferences to care for the only person who had always believed in her. The money ran out. The awards on the wall didn't pay the bills. She took the first job she could find, and now there she was, in a mansion where no one cared about her past. To Helena Costa, she was just another invisible employee. The next morning, Helena called Camila into the kitchen. She was sitting at the table with a steaming cup of coffee, her gaze as cold as ice. "Camila, let's get a few things straight," she said, without even inviting her to sit down. "I want you to focus on the job you are hired for. No teaching signs, no playing therapist with my son." Camila took a deep breath, remaining calm. "Miss Costa, I only want what's best for Gabriel. I saw something in his eyes. He wants to communicate, but he doesn't know how. And you, a nanny, think you can see something that 3 of the best specialists in the country haven't seen?" Helena retorted, her tone venomous with sarcasm. Camilla looked down, avoiding saying what was in her heart, that sometimes the problem wasn't the child, but the world around her that refused to listen. "I understand, ma'am. I'll stick to my job," she replied firmly. Helena felt a strange pang in her chest, as if part of her wanted to believe that woman, but arrogance was stronger. "Good, and keep your distance from Gabriel. I want to make it clear that any disobedience will cost you your job." Camilla simply nodded, but deep down, a decision had already been made. She would not give up on Gabriel, even if it meant fighting that woman's own pride. As Helena climbed the stairs, Gabriel appeared in the hallway with his little wooden block. The boy looked at Camilla and, for the first time, tried to raise his trembling hand. The water sign, incomplete, but almost there. Camilla smiled, moved. "You can do it, my little one. We'll do it together." And so, without Helena realizing it, a seed of change began to germinate in the cold heart of that mansion. The sound of the piano echoed through the mansion that afternoon. Helena played the keys, mechanically, but the melody was soulless, just like her life in recent years. Since Gabriel was born and diagnosed, music had lost its luster. For her, being a mother had become a silent battle against doctors, against people, and, secretly, against herself. Suddenly, a faint, almost imperceptible sound pulled her from her thoughts. Helena frowned. It was coming from the hallway. "Camilla," she called, her voice thick with suspicion. Silence was the answer. Then Helena stood up, her heels clicking like hammers on the marble floor, and followed the sound to Gabriel's room. As she slowly opened the door, the scene before her made her blood boil. Camilla was once again sitting on the floor with Gabriel. She was making hand signals, smiling and encouraging the boy to imitate. Gabriel, for his part, stared at her, his mouth half open, as if a universe of words were trying to escape. "Say it with me, ... water, Gabriel, ... the nanny whispered, moving her hands slowly. The boy made a low sound, almost a whisper, as he tried to imitate the gesture. What's happening here?" Helena's voice exploded, cutting through the moment like a blade. Camilla turned in fright, but remained calm. Gabriel, on the other hand, dropped the toy and cowered, his eyes welling up. "Mrs. Costa, I was just ... just disobeying my direct order." Helena strode forward, her face flushed with fury. "I told you to stay away from my son." Camilla stood slowly, lifting her chin with a dignity that irritated Helena even more. "With all due respect, ma'am, Gabriel isn't a lost cause. He has potential. I saw," she said, her voice calm and contrasting with the storm in her mistress's eyes. "Potential?" Helena laughed, a cold, bitter sound. 3 of the best neurologists in this country told me my son will never speak. Never. And you, a maid, want to convince me otherwise." "I'm not just a maid," Camilla replied, a thread of emotion brimming in her voice. "But that never mattered here, did it?" Helena felt as if struck by an invisible slap. She hadn't expected such courage from someone she'd always called invisible. "Stop this arrogance," Helena snapped. "If you dare touch my son again, you'll be out on the street without a single cent." Camilla remained motionless for a moment. Her eyes, however, weren't filled with fear. They were filled with a silent determination that Helena couldn't ignore. "As you wish, ma'am," she replied, her tone seeming to say, "This story isn't over yet." That night, while Helena locked herself in her room with a glass of wine to try to drown her anger, Camilla wept silently in the small back room. But even through her tears, she murmured to herself, "I promised myself, ... I won't give up on him." And in the next room, Gabriel held the wooden block tightly. He moved his fingers slowly, trying to repeat the gesture Camilla had taught him. Water ... double quotes, he whispered softly. He didn't know anyone was listening. But for the first time in years, a small spark of hope lit up in that house. The next day dawned with the sky covered in heavy clouds. Helena, as usual, was in her office, surrounded by contracts and reports, trying to occupy her mind. But no matter how much she immersed herself in the numbers, she couldn't stop thinking about the scene from the previous day. He almost said. She shook her head, irritated with herself. "Nonsense. I just imagined it." In the playroom, Gabriel sat on the rug, the wooden block in his hands. Camilla, from afar, watched with a heavy heart. She respected Helena's order, but every fiber of her being wanted to kneel beside the boy and guide him again. Gabriel looked up and met Camilla's gaze. For a second, a barely perceptible glint passed through the boy's eyes. Then he moved his lips slowly, as if testing a word within himself. Camilla, with a discreet gesture, raised her hand to her lips, signaling silence. Then she pointed to the glass of water on the table. Gabriel followed the gesture with his eyes. And then, in a barely audible whisper, it happened. The water. Camilla felt her heart stop. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't make any sudden movements, fearing to frighten him. "Very well, Gabriel," she whispered, her lips only overcome with emotion. From the hallway, Helena was passing by with a folder in her hands when she froze. "What did you say?" she asked in disbelief. Gabriel looked at his mother, his brown eyes wide, as if he'd committed something forbidden. Then, with a trembling voice, he repeated, water." The folder fell from Helena's hands, scattering documents across the floor. Her heart raced. For a moment, the world stopped. "Gabriel, did you say?" she whispered, kneeling before her son. The boy nodded slowly, trying to form the word again. Water. Tears streamed down Helena's face. For the first time in 5 years, she heard her son's voice. "Was it you?" Helena turned to Camilla, her eyes welling up. "You did this." Camilla took a deep breath, controlling her emotions. "It wasn't me, ma'am. It was him. He always had it inside him. He just needed someone to believe in him." Helena, still on her knees, looked at her son with a lump in her throat. Behind the pain and wounded pride, a small spark of hope lit in her heart. "Gabriel, my boy," she said, hugging him tightly. Camilla watched the scene in silence, tears in her eyes. She knew that moment would change everything. But she also knew that the bigger battles were still to come. That night, Helena couldn't sleep. Lying in her huge, cold bed, she relived the moment in the playroom like a movie stuck on repeat. "Gabriel, my boy." But instead of feeling peace, a knot tightened her chest. Was it real, or just imagination? The next morning, Helena called Camilla to her office. The nanny entered with firm steps, her uniform impeccable, but there was something different in her gaze. It wasn't defiance. It was the calmness of someone carrying a truth far greater than the walls of that mansion could bear. Helena, sitting behind the oak desk, didn't look up from her papers. What happened yesterday was a coincidence. Her voice was cold, almost rehearsed. Camilla took a deep breath before replying. "Miss Costa, it wasn't a coincidence. Gabriel wants to communicate. He just needs someone to listen to him. In his own language." In his own language. Helena looked up, her eyes flashing with irritation. "My son has severe autism. 3 specialists have confirmed it. He'll never speak normally. Never." Camilla maintained her composure, even feeling the weight of her words. "With all due respect, ma'am, perhaps the specialists didn't see what I saw, and you saw what?" Helena snapped, her voice thick with sarcasm. "You're a nanny, Camilla, not a doctor, not a therapist, just an employee. An employee who believes in him." Camilla replied, without changing her tone. "More than his own mother." The silence that followed was so thick Helena could almost hear it throbbing in her ears. "I want you to keep your distance from Gabriel," Helena finally said, her voice lower, but with an icy firmness. "Civil interaction. If necessary, I'll keep him and hire another nanny to look after him." Camilla hesitated for a moment, fighting the urge to protest. But then she lowered her gaze and said, "As you wish, ma'am." But inside her, a flame burned. She wouldn't give up on Gabriel, not even if it cost her her job. That afternoon, while Helena was signing contracts in the office, Dr. Augusto, the family pediatrician, arrived for Gabriel's monthly checkup. Seeing the boy more attentive, and with a slight smile on his lips, she frowned. "He seems different. What happened?" Helena hesitated, feeling a strange shame as she explained yesterday. "He spoke. One word." The doctor's eyes widened. "He spoke," he asked, almost in a whisper. "What did he say?" "Water," Helena replied, her voice breaking. "But it must have been an accident, a random sound, double quotes, Helena." Dr. Augusto approached, his expression serious. "There's no accident when a child with selective mutism speaks a word with intention. This could be a breakthrough." Helena diverted as she looked at him uncertainly. "The nanny, Camilla, She was with him. That's all." I don't want you to be fooled. Dr. Augusto sensed something different. There was an untold story there, and he was determined to find out. Meanwhile, in the back room, Camilla opened an old medical file folder she'd carried with her since the past. On the yellowed pages were the names of 27 children who, like Gabriel, the whole world considered lost causes. Today, they spoke, they lived. Camilla sighed, looking at the ceiling. I'm not going to give up on him, not this time. The sound of the wall clock echoed through the makeshift office in the mansion. Dr. Augusto examined Gabriel attentively, but the boy was different. His eyes shone with curiosity, and for a moment, he seemed to want to say something. Helena, The doctor began, writing in the chart. You said Gabriel said one word, and this nanny, Camila, was she present? I was, Helena replied, looking away as if the subject deeply bothered her. But I've already resolved that she was forbidden from interacting with him. Dr. Augusto put down his pen, his expression more serious than ever. You know, in all these years, treating children like Gabriel, I've learned to recognize when something is different. He's not just better. He's responding to specific stimuli. Have you noticed that? Helena crossed her arms defensively. I don't want false hope, doctor. I've already deluded myself too much. What if it's not delusional? He insisted. Perhaps you should reconsider the ban. No, Helena interrupted firmly. I don't want experiments on my son. If there's going to be progress, it will be with qualified professionals. But inside her, the doctor's words echoed, eroding the wall of certainty she had built over the years. That night, Dr. Augusto took advantage of Helena's departure for a social dinner and went to the servants' quarters. He found Camilla folding clothes in the modest little room. Camilla, can we talk? He asked, entering cautiously. Camilla looked up, surprised but not scared. Of course, Dr. Helena told me Gabriel spoke. Was this because of what you were doing to him? Camilla hesitated for a moment. Then she took a deep breath and decided to tell the truth. Doctor, I'm not just a nanny. I have a degree in speech therapy, specializing in speech disorders. I worked for years with children like Gabriel, until my life was turned upside down. My God, he murmured, sitting in a nearby chair. What happened? My mother got sick. I had to give up my career to take care of her. When the money ran out, I took the first job that came along. Dr. Augusto ran his hand over his chin, considering. Do you think Gabriel has a chance? I don't think so. Dr. Rhino, he's not a lost cause. He needs a safe environment and someone who speaks his own language. I can help him. But Mrs. Helena won't listen. The doctor was silent for a few seconds, taking it all in. Then he took a card from his pocket and handed it to her. This is my personal number. If you truly believe you can help this boy, I'll support you, but we'll need to proceed with caution. Camilla held the card, feeling a surge of hope surge through her. For the first time in years, she wasn't alone. That same night, while Helena clinked glasses at an elegant dinner, Gabriel was in his room with a picture book Camilla had accidentally left behind. He caressed the pages curiously, trying to form the sound of new words in a barely audible whisper. And so, without Helena realizing it, a silent alliance began to form to free her son's voice and transform that cold house forever. The mansion seemed to sleep under the silent blanket of night. Helena was at one of her endless social dinners, laughing with friends about the latest fashion trends, while Gabriel remained in the house, surrendered to a destiny few believed he could change. Camilla, however, knew this was her opportunity. In the playroom, she sat on the rug with Gabriel, keeping her voice low and her gestures gentle. Dr. Augusto had promised to cover any eventuality if Helena returned early. Gabriel. Remember what we did yesterday? Camilla asked, showing a card with a picture of a glass of water. The boy blinked and hesitantly moved his mouth. Water. Double quotes, he said, almost in a whisper. Camilla smiled, her eyes welling up. Perfect, my little one. You're amazing. She celebrated softly, lightly touching the boy's hand to encourage him. Dr. Augusto, who had been watching the scene discreetly from the hallway, felt a lump in his throat. He had never seen Gabriel so focused, so present. Keep going, Camilla, he said softly, almost like a prayer. Camilla showed another card, this time with the image of a cat. Cat, she pronounced, her gestures clear. Repeat after me, Gabriel. The boy hesitated, staring at the card and then at Camilla. Then, with effort, he whispered. Cat. It was as if a flame had ignited in the chilly air of the mansion. Camilla brought her hands to her face, stifling a sob of joy. You're wonderful, Gabriel. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. Meanwhile, upstairs, Sandra, the housekeeper, was walking down the hallway with a pile of towels and heard a murmur coming from the playroom. She stopped, curious, and approached the half-open door. She saw Gabriel repeating words to Camilla, and, for a moment, her mouth dropped open. Is this boy talking? She murmured to herself. The shock quickly turned into something darker, an opportunity. Sandra had disliked Camilla since the day she arrived at the mansion. Let's see what Mrs. Helena thinks of this. With silent steps, she walked away, a plan already forming in her mind. In the bedroom, Gabriel looked at Camilla, his eyes shining. He raised his trembling hand and, with effort, made the thank you sign in Libras. Camilla felt her heart nearly burst with emotion. Thank you, my angel, for trusting me. But inside her, a cold premonition was rising. Something was about to happen, and it wouldn't be easy. The morning sun illuminated the mansion, but the atmosphere inside the house was about to get colder than ever. Helena sipped her coffee on the balcony, her eyes fixed on her cell phone as she read messages about high society events. Sandra, the housekeeper, appeared in the doorway with a look of urgency, mixed with a hint of mischief. Mrs. Helena, I need to speak to you. It's about the nanny. Helena looked up, already impatient. What now? Sandra, the housekeeper, looked around, making sure no one else was around. Then she leaned in and whispered, Last night, I saw her ... with the boy. They were in the playroom, and Madame Sandra paused dramatically. Gabriel was speaking. Helena's face paled. What? She asked in a sharp whisper. He was repeating words, water, cat, and making those strange gestures with his hands, as if it were a lesson. Helena stood up abruptly, knocking her coffee cup to the floor. I forbade that woman. I forbade it. Well, ... Sandra continued, leaning forward. I think she's using your son as an experiment. I don't know, Madam ... but a nanny teaching things like that, it seems ... dangerous. Helena felt her heart race. Part of her wanted to run to Gabriel and confirm if it was true, but another part, the prouder part, was seething with rage. Call Camilla now. Minutes later, Camilla entered the office. Her serene expression contrasted with the storm brewing on Helena's face. Sit down, Helena ordered, her voice as cold as ice. Camilla obeyed, without saying a word. You disobeyed me, Helena began, her eyes flashing. I told you to stay away from my son, but no. You thought you knew better than me, didn't you? Camilla took a deep breath. Ms. Costa, Gabriel is making progress. He's speaking words. He's trying to sign. That's progress. Progress. Helena laughed, a humorless sound. You're just a babysitter who gave you the right to play with my son like he was a science project. He's not a project, Camilla retorted, her voice firm but calm. He's a child with potential, and I can help him ... if you'll let me. Helena slammed her hand down on the table, making Camilla jump. I don't allow it. If I hear you dared speak to my son again, you'll be out of this house this minute. Camilla looked at Helena, her eyes brimming with tears, but her voice remained calm. If you send me away, madam, who will give your son his voice back? For a moment, Helena felt her heart waver, but pride prevailed. You can leave now, and remember what I said. Camilla stood slowly, her eyes fixed on Helena's. I don't need you to believe me ... I just need you to believe him. And then she walked out, leaving Helena alone in the study, the sound of her own rapid breathing filling the silence. Meanwhile, upstairs, Gabriel sat in his room with his picture book. Alone, he murmured softly, water ... cat. And for the first time, a solitary tear ran down his little face. The mansion was plunged into an uncomfortable silence that morning. Helena paced the office, trying to focus on the contracts in front of her, but the scene from the previous day wouldn't leave her mind. Camilla, her voice calm, defying everything she believed. If you send me away, who'll give your son his voice back? The words sounded like a curse, echoing in her head. Suddenly, a soft sound made her stop. Helena raised her head, attentive. It was like a whisper, coming from upstairs. Water. Helena's heart nearly leaped from her chest. She ran to Gabriel's room, pushing the door open hard, and then she saw it. Gabriel was sitting on the floor with one of his picture books. He stared at the images and, with effort, murmured the words, "cat, ballhouse." Helena brought her hands to her mouth, trying to hold back her tears. "Gabriel," she whispered, kneeling beside the boy. "Are you speaking?" The boy looked up at his mother. For the first time in years, they met. "Mummy," he said, his voice weak, but clear enough to break Helena's heart. She let the tears fall, hugging her son tightly. "My love, you can do it. You always could." Behind the door, Dr. Augusto and Camilla watched the scene with teary eyes. The doctor had convinced Helena to allow Camilla to continue the work, albeit discreetly. And now, the result was there, a miracle born not of expensive medications or pessimistic diagnoses, but of faith and patience. Helena looked up at Camilla, her face wet with tears. "It was you," she said, her voice breaking. "You did it for him, for me." Camilla took a deep breath and replied with a serene smile. "It wasn't me, ma'am, it was him. Gabriel just needed someone to believe in him, and now he has you too." Helena closed her eyes, allowing the weight of years of guilt and frustration to dissolve into a sob. "Camilla, I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything." Camilla knelt beside her and, in a soft voice, said, "Then let's make this right from now on. For Gabriel." And there, in that room that had once been a symbol of silence and pain, a new story was born, a story of voice, hope, and love. 6 months had passed since that day when Gabriel, with a weak voice, called Helena Mummy. The Costa mansion, once silent as a museum, was now filled with laughter, words, and songs in different languages. Camilla had left her nanny uniform and was now officially Gabriel's therapist and teacher. Helena not only recognized her talent, but also became her biggest supporter. But the biggest moment was yet to come. The auditorium was packed. Doctors, therapists, and journalists from all over the country eagerly awaited the conference on new approaches to autism. Helena, elegantly dressed, was in the front row. Beside her, his eyes shining with excitement, was Gabriel, now 6 years old, holding a small microphone in his hands. Camilla took the stage, the audience in absolute silence. "When I arrived at the Costa mansion," she began, her voice firm, "I found a child labeled a lost cause. But Gabriel wasn't lost, he just needed to be heard. In the language of the heart." The lights turned to little Gabriel, who took a deep breath and said into the microphone, in a clear voice, "Hello, ... My name is Gabriel Costa. I want to tell you a secret. I've always known how to speak ... I just needed someone to believe me." The audience rose to their feet in emotional applause. Helena wept, not trying to hide it. It was as if each word from her son erased years of pain and guilt. "Thank you, Camilla. Thank you, Mom. Now I know I can do it." That night, back at the mansion, Gabriel ran through the garden, laughing, while Helena and Camilla watched him from the balcony. "You didn't just save Gabriel, Camilla ... Helena said, her voice breaking. "You saved me too." Camilla smiled, her eyes welling up. "He was the one who saved us both." "Ma'am." Helena held Camilla's hand tightly. "Don't call me ma'am anymore. From today on ... we're a family." And for the first time in many years, Helena felt her heart lighten. Gabriel ran to them and, with a smile, asked, "Mum ... Camilla, can we be a real family?" They both knelt and hugged him at the same time. "We already are, my love," Helena whispered. There, in that previously icy mansion, the warmth of a new beginning transformed